Well, welcome everybody to Dig In. I'm Jess Gaedeke, and I have been really looking forward to this conversation today because I'm joined by a longtime friend and colleague, Rob Wengel. He's president and chief commercial officer at Woxi, and I can't wait to dig in and learn more about you, Rob. So let's start with you telling listeners a little bit about your background.
My background's too long to tell listeners. We don't have enough time in the podcast.
Give us the short
I'll
version.
give
Yeah,
you the short
please.
version. Uh, we'll talk a lot about Woxi, but I'm leading our commercial efforts at Woxi. Prior to this, Jess and I worked together at Gut Check, where I was the CEO of a really great agile market research firm that we sold to Taluna. Um, Prior to that, I did a whole host of things in the world of insights, analytics, data, and innovation at Nielsen, Kantar, IRI. But the foundation of my career was on the CPG side. I was in marketing and sales roles at Procter and Gamble and Tam Brands and others. So that's kind of the career basics. And
Yeah.
I live in the state of Maine. I think I'm one of the few CPG slash insights professionals who live here.
You might be starting a trend though. You never know. There might be an influx of insights people that
We do.
flock to me.
Tom's of Maine came from here. We have
That's true.
we have LL Bean here.
Okay. Yeah, proud heritage. So quick impromptu question just to get things going here, Rob. What is one of your summertime traditions?
My wife is her birthday's the end of July, so
Mhm.
July is birthday month. So just
So you take the
enjoying
month.
the
You love
summer
it.
for the entire month of July is one of our traditions. And of all of our holidays, July 4th tends to be one of our favorites. So finding fireworks somewhere and making sure we just chill with friends, family, and all the good things that go with fireworks in summer.
That's awesome. Well, let's dig in. So, as you know, Rob, our listeners really crave inspiration from other leaders. And I think one of the best ways to inspire is to tell a story. So, I am really excited for you to walk us through the story of Woxi. It's a really dynamic business innovation that's going to change the game for a lot of companies. So, I'd love for you to go to the beginning. What inspired the idea of Woxi? And if you could also just describe what Woxi is so that our listeners can be aware.
Yeah, so I'll start with the context of what is Woxi because obviously it's just this unusual name and we are not that well known in the industry yet. So Woxi is an innovation lab, foundry, and institute. And you might say, what does that mean?
Lots of
So
words.
uh, it is lots of words that sound really fancy and sound like you could pay a consultant a lot of money for those words. Um, when we say we're a lab, foundry, and institute, what that really means is as a lab, we develop new methodologies and new approaches that drive great innovation. As a foundry, we then convert those into really meaningful products that our clients can use effectively. And as an institute, we're really dedicated to continuing to advance learning around what really makes innovation work in our industry. But let me turn that into more practical words. So our flagship product is basically a platform for better innovation decision making, and it's a platform that is really rooted around how clients do innovation. Um, it is all about predictive analytics, and it's all about incorporating sales prediction at every stage of the entire development, design, and launch process. But importantly, it's a platform that is open to really enable our clients to work the way they work
Mhm.
and enable our clients to use the data, insights, and information that they deem as being really valuable to helping them make better decisions. So
Mhm.
we're a predictive analytics platform built for today's innovation decision makers. Let me
Mhm.
give you a little bit more of how we got here. Uh,
Yeah.
so our founders are Chris Adrian and John Lavelle. Both of them were longtime global product leaders at Nielsen and Macy's, who've been doing a lot of work to build really innovative products for innovation for a number of years. And when they first got together, they kind of took seriously this idea of lab, foundry, and institute and examined what is really needed to dramatically improve how innovation is done today. But one of the first things they did was they wrote a book, um, which is
Mhm.
Fruition: How do Great Ideas Come to Life? So let's study and let's really kind of learn from some of the best innovators in the world about what works well. And then that really became the foundation for who we are today.
Mhm. I love that it's grounded in that, sort of foundation of learning and understanding, and I imagine that's really core to your culture today too. Is it a group of very curious people?
It's extraordinarily curious.
Yeah.
It's both extraordinarily curious and for an early stage company, pretty ambitious and arguably maybe even taking on audacious goals
Mhm.
at an early stage. But it's a culture of people who are smart, thoughtful, empathetic, curious, and really driven to do what's right for clients and for our industry.
Mhm. So the company was founded by people that really know innovation. You clearly really know innovation. How did you go about developing the Woxi model or system? Did you take some of your own best practices when it comes to innovation, and what were those?
So all of us, with the exception of I think one or two employees at this point, worked at Bases for a period of time. So
Hmm.
we have deeply rooted understanding of the drivers of innovation success, and a deep understanding of a really wide range of client types and categories. And I think we were inspired by what we knew our clients loved about what we were doing, but we also were really clear eyed about a number of the unmet needs that our clients had, a number of circumstances in which um, the clients liked a lot of what we did, but they said, I wish it could do this, that, and the other. So
Hmm.
that was really, in many ways, the foundation for what we've created in this platform. Um,
Hmm.
but where we started was we actually took some of our own medicine, which sometimes is unusual, uh, in that we really did thorough discovery. We really spent time trying to understand clients and their needs, and their unmet needs, and their aspirations. We built persona based narratives. What
Hmm.
for each of these roles at a client, let's not just think through our lens, let's really think through the client's lens. For each role, for each stakeholder, for each kind of scenario and use case, you know, who is the audience who might be looking for something new, different, and better? What are those jobs to be done, if you will, or unmet needs, and in what circumstances? And we use that foundation to really build something that was new and different.
Hmm. And you've been in the market now, and we're moving towards a bigger announcement, I know, in a couple of weeks about some of the partners that you're working with. But I'm curious, as you went to market, one of my favorite things to ask about is like, where did it go wrong? Where did you get tripped up? Where did you face barriers? Like, tell me about the not so glamorous side of bringing a company like Woxi to market.
Well, here, let me actually, I'm going to start with where we went right, if I
Hmm.
can, and then I'll
Yeah. Sure.
talk about where we've hit some bumps in the road at times. Uh, the where we went right is I used the word audacious before. The founders, and this was before I joined the firm. I've been doing some advisory work for the founders for about 4 or 5 years, but I joined the firm a year ago. Uh, our first client is PepsiCo Global, and they're comfortable with us sharing that. Uh,
Hmm.
and I guess I wasn't the founder. I've never been a founder. I've helped founders and helped others build businesses. To start with one of the biggest, most complex companies in the world, I thought was
Yeah.
pretty audacious.
Yeah. You didn't start small.
Exactly. One might argue, all right, let's build this and let's prototype and let's find a really really safe place to do this, which I might recommend to a lot of companies who are starting something new. Um,
Right.
we went big. We started with one of the more complex, incredible company, but very complex uh, company that where we're working with some central decision makers at the global insights level who have a vision for how they want to do insights better, but then we need to work very much through a organization with a lot of stakeholders, a lot of different business units, a lot of different geographies around the world. So
Hmm.
that was the audacious thing that I might not have done, and I give Chris and John a lot of credit for.
Yeah.
Um, that has gone really, really well. That being said, it is complex. So there's no question that Pepsi's been a phenomenal partner for us in that they've had patience. That a lot of things in our timeline that we were really confident we could deliver upon might have gone a little bit slower, might have gone a little bit differently than we anticipated, despite really good discovery work. despite building these persona-based narratives where we thought we really understood the stakeholders and the use cases, it's only natural that as you actually move from an idea, a prototype, into real production, that you're going to run into things that weren't anticipated, which is so I wouldn't say anything's gone wrong. I wouldn't say that we've faced any big barriers. I think we've faced the natural occurrences of we thought we were going to turn left and we actually had to turn right. We thought that a client would want to use something in this way. And once they actually started using it, they decided to use it in a slightly different way. And that's what innovation is all about. And that's what agility is all about.
Mhm.
So, what might appear to be roadblocks, what might appear to be things that are slowing us down, in many ways are just the appropriate and natural lessons as you're building a new service, a new product, and then you're actually having consumption of that product and service. You learn and you adjust, and that's what we've done. So our timelines from what we expected have probably been a little bit longer than anticipated, but the end result is proving to be really powerful, and our client is helping us learn all the way through.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'd love to dig into that part of the client experience because as you know, Rob, I'm a very client-focused person, and I think there's nothing better than when you see the delight in in a client's face that you've really changed their experience and their circumstance. So, what does that delight look like for Woxy clients? Like what is that moment of consumption that you think is really powerful for them?
Yeah. So, and uh, to kind of give that explanation, I probably need to talk a little bit more about the platform. So,
Mhm.
the core product is delivering predictive analytics, sales prediction at every stage of innovation. And one of the core premises is it's an on the fly, always on instant prediction. So, today's universe or the previous universe was one in which most rigorous sales prediction work is handed off to an outside company, whether it be a research company, an analytics company, or a consulting company, and they go away and they do work, and it takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to return an answer. We actually return an answer within minutes to our client. Um, and then once we return that answer, we have a very dynamic platform that allows the client to do all kinds of what if scenarios on the fly. So we not only deliver a sales prediction, more importantly, in many ways than the sales prediction, is we deliver an understanding of what matters and what the drivers of those sales are so that a client can play around with all the different levers and figure out how to optimize the launch at every stage and optimize their decision making. So when you think of the delighters, when we first entered, I think the primary objective for PepsiCo, and we are at more clients now, but I'll rely on PepsiCo for this point. The primary driver was we need a better way to do new product sales forecasting. And the thought was the job we were being hired for is just to replace sales forecasting. What the client has learned and we've learned together is what we do does that. It does it really, really well, but it does so much more than that. It has become a vehicle, as one of our clients said on stage with us, that it's been able to take insights and turn insights into a much better understanding of the relationship to sales. So I'd always get, a great insights report, and I'd understand, because I was a researcher, the difference between top box and top two box. But when I go to talk to the business, do they really know what the difference is? And we use all this research to make decisions, but we get these great human insights without necessarily knowing the sales impact. What we're able to do is actually quantify the impact of every new insight that comes into a client. So while we are delighting clients in that lane of I need a sales prediction, we're at a key stage gate or key decision moment. What we're also finding is it's a really valuable tool to simply say, I got a new insight, I learned new information. What does that mean from a sales standpoint in addition to
Mhm.
all the other data points? So that's been one really big delighter. The second really big delighter has been this notion of creating a common currency and a connection across the organization. Innovation is a process that has so many cross functional members, has so many steps throughout. And what often happens is there are baton passes. Our platform has actually created a bridge that is enabling baton passes to be done much more plainly and enabled really good alignment among the cross functional organization through the innovation process around the prediction that the new product is based on.
Mhm. Yeah. And what really excites me, because obviously at Dig, Upside is a big part of our offering, and that is the agile platform that distills our perspective on consumer behavior. So we've established a partnership that is going to really help clients move quite seamlessly between testing and Upside and getting access to the Woxi outputs. And I love that idea of the iterative learning and insights that you might capture along that innovation process, and all of those things ultimately being delivered and impacting the currency of what the client really cares about, which is sales. It can be forgotten throughout that process.
That's exactly right. It's by nature, innovation is messy. Innovation is a series of decisions every single day. Uh, do we go this? What's the trade off that we're going to make here and there? If you talk to R&D people, oftentimes they'll receive a concept and they have to interpret that concept and say, how do I interpret tastes great? How do I make the product that really fits that? So the whole cross-functional process between designing a proposition, figuring out how to communicate the proposition, but then actually developing the product or service to deliver upon that is so complicated. I think a lot of us, quite frankly, who are in insights and not actually doing the innovation itself, might lose sight of that at times. The number of trade-off decisions that are made, the ability to now put a what's the sales impact of this decision in the middle of that decision criteria is really proving to be invaluable. Um, and the recognition that companies like Dig and tools like Upside have created a real ability to support agile development in a meaningful way. But there was a gap that you could have agile research and agile information that helps you make decisions, but you didn't have agile sales impact. So
Mhm.
we kind of closed that gap of being able to add to the great work that you're doing that moves so quickly and so effectively and gives such valuable information, to just add that extra layer of, but will it sell and will it have an impact?
Yeah. And I think that's the real unlock, is this idea of agile plus Woxy is going to be very disruptive, I think, to the market research industry. So clients no longer have to feel tethered to certain methodologies that might, again, take weeks and weeks. Now we can really deliver on the promise of agile. So I'm obviously very excited about it
You
and
could
excited for our continued partnership as
you could
well.
even say that Dig plus Woxy would do that as well.
You
And
said it. I love
and
it.
in fact, all kidding aside, one of the beauties and one of the things we're excited to work with you on is the fact that you really have a broad range and the ability to use the right insights tool, the right information, and the right support and service when it's needed is really important to support innovation. And that's there's not a one size fits all, and you've built a portfolio that recognizes that, and we're really excited about how that portfolio just fits so neatly into our platform.
hmm Well, thanks for saying that. And again, super excited about what this means for clients, in particular, this partnership. So, just to kind of wrap up the Woxy story, Rob, what's your biggest takeaway from Woxy's journey to market? And I know that we're still on the journey, but what's so far your biggest takeaway?
Well, my biggest takeaway, and this might sound awkward. When we set out to develop our approach to clients, our intent was we're really going to do this right. We're going to spend time to be truly empathetic, do really meaningful discovery with our clients, really learn how do they work, because we built a platform that's meant to work around the way they work. So we wanted to spend the time to learn, to really learn how do clients work, what do they need, what are their unmet needs, and how do we work with them to make sure our platform solves for the way they go to market. What we found is the reception we're getting to our platform kind of out of the box is so good that the meetings are kind of shortcut to, hey, this is really great. How do we pilot this, before we've had the time to really establish that deep understanding. So it's an
Sure.
interesting journey, and it's a problem that a lot of people would have. The reception has been phenomenal. Our client partners have been incredible. Uh, but there's a little bit of, can we slow down just a tad? That we're
Yeah.
so excited that you're excited, but for us to implement this in a way that doesn't lose sight of the North Star, we need to make sure that you don't just say, well, that's a really cool tool, let's go put it in place. It's got to be, yeah, that's a really cool tool. And we're really clear eyed about how different stakeholders in different scenarios are going to put it to work so that we really maximize the value. So the fear is, like a lot of software that we all use, that we buy it because we get excited about all the things it can do. We end up only using it for a limited number of capabilities. And this tool is turning out to have a broad set of jobs it does for our clients. So we need
Mhm.
to work with our clients to find the pace of, let's make sure we have the right foundation of knowledge so that we implement the tool in a way that really allows you to optimize your innovation journey, your innovation decision making, so you do it with more confidence, and that we can really have the maximum impact on your organization.
Yeah. Well, it's a good problem to have, right? That
Right.
that demand is so immediate and that excitement is so immediate. But I think you're being really thoughtful to say it's going back to the innovation playbook. If you don't establish and really understand that insight and that need, then you're going to rush to deliver something to market that's not going to maximize that opportunity. So it's very smart, but again, a good problem to have. So, Rob, we're going to turn to you as a thought leader. And again, I've worked with you for years and years. I know you have a lot of passionate points of view on innovation. I'd love for you to tell us one. What's one of your most hopefully it's a little bit controversial too. I love those. But what's one of your most passionate opinions about the state of innovation right now?
It may be controversial or may be consistent, which is way too often either the organizations we're a part of or the pressure we're under leads us to not innovate as well as we could. And interestingly, when you look at the success rate of new products in almost any industry, it's far short of what one would like, particularly given the amount of human resource and financial resource that goes into innovation, as well as opportunity cost of choosing to do an innovation instead of something else. The amount of time, effort, and money that goes into innovation is extraordinary. Um, and success, because it's so limited, can appear like it's magic or random or just luck. And the reality is, there's a science to this, that we're all smart enough to know what the drivers of good innovation are, that there's that an age old idea of find an unmet need and fill it hasn't changed. um, we hear a lot of people talk about being human centric. We talk a lot of people talking about really building things that are they're truly differentiated, um, but the outcome often doesn't match that promise. And I worry that we don't learn enough from the past, that we are under such pressure as an industry to get things out the door, whether it's SKUs for news so that you can just stay relevant in a planogram, or keeping up with competition and racing to emulate someone who came out, so you're not left behind. The notion of staying human centric, being genuinely empathetic to what consumers truly need or want or desire, and then developing products in a way that will delight, and deliver upon a promise. We just take way too many shortcuts. And you can be agile and you can be quick, and not take shortcuts.
Hmm.
And there's just so much pressure, I think, for teams to perform, that we lose sight of what we know works and end up with, unfortunately, too many just average or below average innovations.
Yeah. So that's an important distinction. Not take shortcuts, but you can still approach the process with agility. And that's really the beauty of some of the technologies and the approaches and the firms like Woxi and like Upside Platform that are allowing clients to realize that. I think that that's one of the most exciting things. It still keeps me excited in this industry after this many years. And you
Yeah,
probably
in some
similar for you.
in some ways, it's not dissimilar to what I was saying about Woxi's experience with clients, of the idea of go slow to go fast, that there are
Mhm.
just certain points where spend a little bit extra time. Let's make sure we nail this. Let's make sure we're aligned. Let's make sure we're still um, clear about what our North Star is and what our core purpose and objectives are, but then use all the great technologies and tools in agile development that are available to us to then go fast on the areas you can go fast. Too
Mhm.
often, when you go fast but without all the foundational elements in place, you end up playing catch up later to fix things that were a mistake or a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen it time and time again. So what's your hot take on the future of the insights industry?
There is, it's interesting, and I'll be self-serving for a second. There is some extraordinary AI work underway by a lot of insights providers, both within clients and within suppliers, and jointly between clients and suppliers. There's been incredible work over the past decade or more on building really great technology platforms, such as Upside. Um, we found a white space. We found an area where no one had really innovated for probably about 40 years. So, one of the observations about the insights industry is that everyone kind of follows one thing. So, one
Mhm.
observation is that we, I think, have learned is if everyone's going here or here, look for the white space to go to. And the other observation I have about the insights industry is uh, the science in search of a problem notion, that we have some incredible technology, incredible uses of AI. There's some really great new platforms. They're enablers. Um, my fear is that there's a lot of chasing those sexy enablers without remembering what we're trying to enable.
Mhm.
And this is not an either or, this is not a trade off. We need to be innovative. We need to use all the latest and greatest technology. We need to continue to look at outside industries to learn from. Uh, but we can't become so transactional and so focused on just the technology that we lose sight of the big picture. And the
Mhm.
big picture is we're looking for human insights that allow for better decision making, that allow us to grow brands, grow businesses, innovate better. And um, so, my hot take on the industry is we're doing some really cool stuff for an industry that's been viewed as kind of slow and a bit of a dinosaur by some, but we can't lose sight of the main purpose of developing all these cool technologies.
Let's go to the final dig. This is all about you as a consumer, Rob, so feel free to take off the professional hat for a moment if you wish. What's the last product or service you bought on impulse?
All right. It's not going to be the last product I bought on impulse. I probably honestly don't buy too many things on impulse. And at the risk of perhaps sounding out of touch, I'll be genuine. My
Here we go.
biggest impulse purchase, and probably most important, is I live at a beach house, and it was literally my wife and I walking on a beach that we love, walking in a community that we love, that we would visit once a year for vacation or twice a year for vacation, and fairly impulsively say, "You only live once, right?" We're relatively conservative, saving for retirement, and we say, "Why are we saving this money to use when we're older? Let's go for it." And we ended up buying a beach house, and that was probably my biggest impulse purchase of my entire life, and the most important one because it's now become our permanent house.
Sure. Well worth it. I remember when we both worked at Gut Check, it was in the early days, and that's when you were spending like more weekends, right, at the beach house. And we were on a Friday meeting, and you said, "Is it really like lame of me if I'm on the beach right now and I'm on video?" And I said, "No, I think that's baller. I think you should go on camera, Rob. Like this is what we're all striving for is the beach house that you can have that lifestyle." So good impulse purchase for sure. What is a category or a brand or a product that you can really rationalize any price point for? You just have to have it in your life.
That's a tough one. For me personally, I'm going to say pizza. that
Okay.
that
Yeah.
uh, you can get a slice of pizza for a couple bucks on a New York City street, and it can be great. Or you can get a really, really great pizza for 30 bucks, and it's worth every penny because it's better than a steak and it's better than almost any other meal. Uh,
Hmm.
so for me, that's probably the one that stands out. when I actually, as an observer of the industry and a participant in the industry, one of the categories that I find fascinating is um, beauty, in particular, kind of skincare and
Mhm.
cosmetics.
Yeah.
It's amazing because there's an arguably that some of the technologies that you see in an everyday beauty product that you can buy in food, drug, or mass might be the exact same quality as the very expensive one that you're going to buy in luxury. Um,
Yep.
but it seems to be a category that is very resilient uh, at almost any price point if it's going to make me feel better and drive my skin and beauty uh, perceptions.
Yeah. I don't know if it's my age or just the nature of how that category has evolved, but I think about it way more than I ever have. And I think it's now become part of an aspect of wellness that is also on trend for good reason. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think there's a lot of products in that category that probably command a price point that isn't demonstrative of what's inside the package.
Well, it's interesting I started my career at Procter, and I was in the health and beauty care business. And we used to say back then that private brands, if there was something you were ingesting, you would never buy a private brand. You'd only buy a name brand. If it was something that you were putting on your body, yeah, you can buy a private brand. And I think in some ways that's been reversed. And with all due respect to those who sell Advil, I'll buy a generic private brand of Advil any single day. But when it comes to my shampoo, or it comes to other things like that, I'm probably sticking with a brand. So there's been a reversal of fortunes. I think you're right that the taking care of my oral care, the oral care has become about beauty. Other things about just making me feel good about myself have really elevated, I think, over time.
Yeah. Yeah. Brands have distinct personalities. What's a brand that you would date and maybe a brand you would marry? And they're not always the same brand. Let's be real.
No, that's dangerous. Um, well, I do live in Maine, um, and I happen to like craft beer. So I'm going to go with the Maine Beer Company, which their flagship product is an IPA called Lunch. Uh, they have a
Oh,
really
that's
wide
cute.
they have a wide range, but Maine Beer Company is probably the brand that I would date and marry. And part of what I like, it's an innovative brewery. It's actually a beautiful brewery, um, but they are really it's innovative, but it's also really consistently good and across the range. And their mission is one that's real, which is do what's right. So
Mhm.
the do what's right mission is very consistent with the way I think about things.
You were able to weave in some real ethos to what started as you just enjoy that craft beer. So well
I
done.
do
You
like
you
that
brought
craft
it brought it
beer.
home.
And by the way,
Um,
they make really good pizza at their brewery too, so it all comes back together.
I was gonna ask you where's the best pizza in Maine, and this is turning into a commercial for the Maine Beer Company. So good. Go check them out next time you're in Rob's neighborhood. So Rob, finally, what keeps you inspired at work?
Um, I love working with people that I wouldn't be in a job if it weren't that. But I think I'm inspired by change. Some people are frightened by change. I'm inspired by change, and I'm inspired by a relentless pursuit of building upon what we've already done. And in fact, I get restless. I get bored if we're just kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And you've experienced some of that. That being satisfied with where we are is not consistent with the way I think. So I get inspired by the um, what's next, not what's next for the sake of what's next, but what's next for how do we build upon the foundations and just continue to build. Because as someone has said recently, the rate of change will never be this slow again. Uh, so we
Right.
just constantly have to be not resting on our laurels and looking to see how do we improve, how do we delight customers, how do we improve what we do every day, and that really inspires me. The not staying in one place but constantly moving up.
Yeah. Well, that's the really energetic and optimistic way of saying the terms that I use. Which, and I, you've heard me give this to commercial teams in the past, but success breeds complacency. Complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive. That's the thing I like to live by. So a little bit more of a dark version of what you described, but yeah, we should never rest. We should always keep pushing. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm really, really excited about the Woxi relationship and partnership and what it's going to mean for clients. So thank you so much for joining us today on Dig In. We learned a lot and it's always good to see you, Rob.
Thanks, Jess.